closing is no more than helping your client close the gap between where they are stuck and where they want to go, the dream. Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. And this week I have Jon Valenta back on here from General Paving Stones. And John's been so gracious to come on and help me have a conversation around why do contractors fail at selling? Or why do they dislike the word sales? Or what about selling just puts contractors off? So, Jon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Joshua.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have this conversation because we've been in this industry a very long time, right? Probably half a century or more, right? And
at least.
A question for you is, when you first got into this industry, doing hardscapes and all that stuff, did you come from a sales background, a business background, or how did you get started in this business? And was that even a priority back then?
No, great question. Absolutely not. Had no experience with sales and really had no intention of sales. Went to work for my father as a laborer and was very proud to swing a pick and shovel and drive a wheelbarrow around all day, every day. So did that for many, many years. And it was probably at least almost 15 years in before I actually started selling my own work.
Wow. And what was that transition like for you?
It was difficult. I'm not really the most outgoing, talkative guy, and having to go, knock on people's doors and talk to strangers wasn't the most comfortable thing. But when you did make a sale, get a job, it was party time. It was very
Oh, yeah.
exciting.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because that's very similar to my story. When in the beginning, you sign up for your EIN number and you get the EIN number. You're like, I'm in business. And I've been thinking all right, well, maybe they'll send me how to sell, how to run a business, none of that stuff. Still waiting for that 30 years later. Right. So
Yes.
we've got to figure it out on our own. And I remember the early years when they'd come into garden center looking for people to do stuff around their house. My brother, father, and I first started out. You didn't really have to sell. They kind of said, hey, we want you. What's the price? Let's go. And that was pretty simple. But as we started getting into more complex projects, patios and things like that, then, we started competing with others who actually knew how to do this, right? Knew how to sell and communicate. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I just try to be the nice guy and I just say yes all the time. And that makes it so much easier. And sometimes I got yeses and sometimes I got yeses and never called back, right? So seldom do you actually get a no, right? In sales, you don't normally get a customer that says to you, look, Jon, we're not using your company, right?
Very rare.
What do you normally hear?
You hear I got to think about it if they don't want to give you that no, but they are a no. Or you hear maybe, oh, it's just a little bit more than we're hoping to spend, or we're just not ready right now, things like that.
Yeah, all the old BS, no's in disguise, right?
Yes.
Why don't you just tell me? I always thought, once I realized this, and it was years in, dude, it took me a while to figure that out. I thought it was just oh, they just forgot about it. No. They just don't want to be honest and truthful with you. They don't want to, hurt your feelings. They're trying to be nice too. They're not especially in the beginning, they're probably thinking, this young whippersnapper out here trying to think he's going to get $10,000 out of my wallet. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I can tell he's insecure. He doesn't know what he's looking down at the ground. He's using tons of filler words like maybe, kind of, possibly, like those kinds of things. And I didn't know that. Lots of ums. And, I didn't realize it at the time, but they could see right through it. And I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best out there trying to give them all I got. And I heard lots and lots of those false yeses, that's for sure. But so why do you think contractors, you and I, why do you think we suffered so much? Why do you think we struggled so much in those days and even now?
Yeah, now that it's been a lot longer and, I've done some training, I definitely think one of the biggest things is talking too much rather than letting the customer talk. And talking too much about things that the customer really doesn't want to know about or hear about or waste their time listening to you talk about all these details that they don't care about. That I think is a big thing. Uh,
So what are some of those details that you found that the customer really doesn't care about, but we as contractors, we think they care about, and we make sure they know it?
yeah, yeah, and I did this for many, many years. Pretty much all of the construction things, I'm just big into doing things properly. We give a lifetime warranty. I'm not cutting any corners. And telling them about, our compaction equipment and how we test the compaction and how much base and the different fabrics we use depending on the situation and about the pavers and how the pavers are made and how they're so strong and probably was boring the crap out of them, but I thought it was important, and
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
why I wasn't getting the work.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I remember in the early times where I would think that it's like a show, right? You knock on a door, they open a door, and it's like it's time to perform now. So you walk in, you ask them a couple of small questions, and then you're going right into why, not necessarily why you're the best. Some guys will do that, but not necessarily why you're the best, but how smart you are. I know I'd
Yeah,
launch right into a tirade of like, oh, wow, look, the reason why our pavers last longer is because of the base and a this and a this and a this and go down all the way. We use a different jointing sand. It's better, like all this kind of stuff. And you could see the glaze coming across the eyes. And now I can see it. I couldn't see it back then, but now I'd see in their eyes, like, will you just ask me some questions? Right? Will you just stop talking about how great everything is you do and start asking us what would make us come to life outside? Can you shift the gears a little bit? And man, was that a huge eye opener for me when I finally realized that. But I know a lot of contractors, they're taught to build, right? They go to seminars, they go to events, they go to Techo Block showcases, they go to all this stuff because they want to learn how to use their hands better. And that is amazing. It is so needed. It's necessary to do a great job. But there's no way that you're going to be building a project. You can't sell it first. So I
absolutely.
argue daily to the idea that if you don't spend just as much time or more time learning how to communicate value and demonstrate it without having to tell customers how great you are, how great your process is, but be able to demonstrate that. And if you can do that in a way that the customer sees high value and not feeling like they're being talked at or spit at with all this information, you shift the game. And then when you have more opportunities, sales that have gone to, turned into cash, now you can go out and build stuff. So we're so guided in the beginning to always learn with our hands and never to sit down and start working with our minds, figuring out how to communicate. And some still think communication and sales is manipulation. That if I do that, like that's just not good. I have to figure out how to take from them to get from me. And when we realized that's not the case, because that's where I was for the longest time, I had a real hard conflict inside of me that would go back and forth, figuring like if I manipulate them, to give me money, then I feel guilty that I'm getting their money. But I'm like, what kind of crazy brain ninja work is going on in my head for that? They're actively pursuing what they want. They've earned the money. They're handing it to me because they want it. Why am I thinking in some way I'm manipulating or somehow bamboozling them into doing this project and feeling guilt? I should feel nothing more than gratefulness for this opportunity to serve their family. But my mind was so stuck in I have these hands, I'm selling time for money, right? So I need to keep these things busy. Did you have any experience like that, or how was your experience, John?
Absolutely, with the guilt. You really struck a chord there. I remember at the beginning, like, yeah, that I probably should have been charging more, but felt guilty for even the prices I was charging, and not making a ton of profit, but still having that odd guilty feeling. Taking tens of $1,000s from people for building their projects, even though, like I said, it should have been more.
But it's interesting how you use the word taking.
Yeah,
$10,000 for building the project, right? There's times in our minds that we feel like we're taking from them
yeah,
when we're
that's how it felt.
serving them, right? And in our minds, it's a story. It's a story of money that we have in our minds or our value or our worth, right? So like we're really good at building stuff, but I hate putting like a money. I wish, I remember in the early days, I wish I didn't have to even charge anybody. I'd do it for free because I was afraid that if I put a number to it and if they said no, then I would feel rejected, like I wasn't worth that number. And if it was too high and they rejected me, I'd be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Or if it's too low, and I'd be like, all right, cool, we got the job. Good, I can serve, I can help. Because I think you and I both have the same heart. And I think most contractors the same way. They want to help. They want to build things. They want to leave like a really great mark on that property. They really want to. But when it comes down to numbers and selling, they're just like, oh, crap. Like, first of all, I don't know my numbers. And now it's synced up. That should not be an issue anymore. But the reality is some still don't know their numbers. But if you do know your numbers and you see what you've got to charge for that project, what's holding you back from doing that or more? Is it the fact that the market wouldn't hold it? And who says that's true? Is it the fact that you don't believe that you're worth it? That might be a harder pill to swallow. So we have to really, I mean, a lot of this is mindset, of course, in what we're doing. But if we can shift the word sell to the word serve, and say, we're here to serve that client has saved for years. You know, another great thing when it comes to closing, like I used to hate that word, dude, with a vengeance. You know, my sales trainer, he's like, you know, this is all about closing. And I'm like, look, Dan, I don't like the word closing because it just sounds like you're closing a door, you're closing a possibility, you're closed. Like all of that just sounds like a dead end. And then he helped me understand what it truly means. He's like, look, closing is no more than helping your client close the gap between where they are stuck and where they want to go, the dream. You're bridging that gap, closing that gap with your process. They're calling you because they have a problem that they're trying to solve, and you are the bridge to the solution. That's the closing. That's what we're closing. So when he explained it to me that way, I'm like, no, I love the word closing because that's what we do, right? We close the gap between where they are and where they want to go. And we get that value. We get that privilege to be part of that. So now that shifts, at least it does for me. I don't know if it does for you, but it shifts the idea of what my role is in this relationship. Because that's what we're doing. We're not just building backyards, we're building relationships. And if we know our roles in those relationships, we can then figure out, okay, how can I be the best in that role? Like I want to be the best dad, or I want to be the best coach, or I want to be the best whatever. You can fill in the blank, right? So it's understanding what that role is. But if we think that there's something sleazy or manipulative about helping them close that gap, going from I can't do anything with my family in the backyard to holy moly, I can host parties and the entire soccer team comes over every Thursday night after practice and we have hot dogs and hamburgers and all the families come together. Wow. By thinking you're manipulating them, you're robbing them of the opportunity to have those experiences in their backyard. Think about that. It expands this whole thing beyond. So we're taught to build, but truly what we need to be able to do is communicate that value to help with that close.
That's such a great way to put it. You know, we're their guide to bring them from where they are to where they want to be.
That's right. That's right. Right. So when we understand that role, that guide role, instead of the guy trying to sell stuff, I'm the sales guy. Just think of you being a sales guide, right? That little shift could make all the difference. And it takes the stink out of going to sell. I mean, I remember many times I'd come up to the front door. I'd be breathing a little hard in the truck. I'd be like, all right, we're good. It's showtime. I'd go up and I'd knock on the door. I'd walk in. I'd always take my shoes off. That's respect, right? But I was like, okay, now it's the Josh show, right? Now I have to perform. This is what I do now. I perform. And I would be nervous and I would be talking too much. And I would be thinking like if there was any silence whatsoever, I would want to fill it with something. And you know, anybody out there that's ever sold anything, outdoor living or otherwise, knows that feeling when you get nervous and you start filling space with sound, like sounds coming out of your face and you're not even tracking what it's saying. Like, have you ever had an experience, John, where you're talking and you're thinking at the same time? And like you're talking and you're thinking and you're watching yourself, hearing yourself talking. You're like, why are you saying this right now? Why don't you shut up? Why don't you ask them questions? But you continue to talk. Have you ever experienced that?
Absolutely. And don't do it anymore, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely in the past.
It's wild. It's wild. And, you know, what shifted for me is when I started recording my conversations, like on the phone or even out on the site, I'd have my phone, just put it on memo, put it in my pocket, and then just for my own use, just to listen to how much, first of all, what words I chose, how much I interrupted them, because I used to do that a lot. If I had an idea I wanted to get out and they were halfway through a sentence, I'd stop them and get into what I wanted to talk about. Because I thought, again, performance, I had to be the smartest guy in the room as the salesperson. And if I was the smartest one in the room, they'd hire me. And what I didn't realize is it was never about being the smartest. It was about being the one who listened best. That's the one who gets the project the majority of the time. And that's the part that really took me a while to learn. And I mean, you mentioned it earlier about talking less. That's the first of the core 10, right? You talk less and you close more. It's about making sure you know that truthfully, as professionals, we shouldn't be talking more than about 30% of the time. 70% of the sound should be coming out of your client's face, only 30% out of yours. But sometimes it's hard because we get excited about this stuff. We get excited about the new space. We have these ideas flying through our head. And all of a sudden we're like, I gotta share it. I gotta share it right now. And we miss what they might actually want to gain from this space. And then they give us a false yes when we leave. Yeah, we'll get back to you. And they never do because they're like, oh my God, that guy ever stopped talking? Seriously, does he ever stop talking? He never even asked us many questions. He just told us about how great he was and what he could do and all the ideas he had, but I don't really want any of that stuff. I said I wanted a patio and a seating wall and possibly a future swimming pool, but I didn't want it on that side of the property because the sun's not even over there. It just seemed the easiest for him. And a patio size, he didn't even ask me what we're going to do with the patio. It wasn't about an outcome, how we're going to use it. It was about the feature. And man, I'm ranting here a little bit. Sorry. I get excited about this because I remember those days clearly and how inefficient I was at communicating and how few projects I got. And I thought I was winning at 25 or 30% closing rate. That was not the case. I didn't realize that anything above that even existed.
Agreed. I mean, that's been one of the biggest shifts in my sales process is basically shutting up and letting them talk. And even when we get to that awkward silence, when you feel like you need to say something, it's like human instinct to break the silence. Just got to be patient and let them do it and let them tell you what they want or what they feel. And that will certainly make them feel like you really get them and you're listening and you're paying attention and you're going to be the best one to help guide them where they're looking to go and build the project that's going to work best for them and their family.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Yeah. Strategic silence. That was a tough one for me to learn. I know that for sure. It was tough because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, I'm here to talk to them. I better do lots of that. Yeah. So when I would stop, it got awkward. So I filled that silence with more sound. And then it made me look nervous and insecure. And that is not a good thing to have in a sales conversation, right? So now it's fun when you get a conversation going and you ask a question, you let it hang. I give it the 5 seconds, right? You let it hang,
Yep.
so what would you like to see out there in your backyard, John?
And just be quiet. Wait for them to talk.
And you hold that silence and they will talk because they're going to feel the awkwardness of it and they will speak. It's the same thing with budget. It's the same thing with any question you ask. As a professional, our goal here isn't just to uncover information. It's to give them space to speak their heart. And if we don't give them space or we jump right in because it becomes awkward, well, they never get that opportunity. So a man or woman that can control themselves, pause and ask a question, let it land, give it 5 seconds. It won't take more than that. They'll look at each other or they'll just speak right away because they're asked a good, solid question. It's amazing how well that works and how much it gives you, and this isn't what I'm after when it comes to like the overall context of control, but leadership of the conversation, right? Because what they're looking for is a leader they can trust. Someone that's going to take them from uncertainty to certainty. And if you are certain in the way that you communicate, you're certain in the way you deliver your message, you're poised and aware enough to pause and give them space to talk and not move on until you got what you need, it changes the game. And the best part is, dude, you're doing less work. As a professional, you're talking less. You've got to think less. You're listening. Okay, like the detective, right? Like taking down notes. You're like, I didn't see that coming. Okay. Didn't know you wanted to do that. Cool. And write that down. Oh my goodness. It's so powerful if you use strategic silence. But again, why do contractors fail at selling or sales? First of all, it's the mindset around what it even is. And second, it's trying to put on a show, thinking that they have to come out and have all the answers right away. Like they're the professional. So they've got to come out and wow their clients with their intellect. And it's just not the case. You're far more effective as a communicator when you don't do that, when you give your clients space, when you have a script of questions that you're going to use, know what order to use them in, and to communicate by just asking that question, let it set. Again, 70-30. 70% of the sound should be coming from their face. If you go back and listen to your message and you're doing like 50, 60, 70% of the conversation is coming from you, there needs to be some adjustments in order to get you back to that 30-70.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Letting them talk has certainly changed the game.
Yeah, it sure does. How has it helped you with that realization of letting them talk? How has that helped you in sales over the last years?
I've spent a lot less time with people that are not, really interested in doing business with me, and giving them the opportunity to talk and tell me what they want. Number one, I can, find out what they really want, and that way I know if we can help them or not. And if not, I'll tell them right away. And if so, we'll find out exactly what they want when we get to, the point of talking about, what it's going to cost or what the budget is. And if we, don't align on budget, well, then, if there's nothing else we can do or help them with, we get that no. And now it's party time when we get a no, because we know we're not going to be wasting any more time. We're not going to be doing a free design. We're not going to be doing an estimate proposal, nothing, just to get the no, after spending who knows how many hours or days even with this, person that wasn't going to hire us in the first place.
That's right. That's right. Yep. And at time, I was doing some numbers for a presentation, and it blew me away with the average being about, I'm going to be very conservative with this, but with the average project, going there to the house, driving from your office to the project, to meet with the customer, to talk about the project, to come back to the office, to prepare a quote and or design, and then to send it via email or Loom or back to site. I'm using an extremely conservative number of about 2 hours, right? That's extremely conservative. And if you had 5 a week that you, let's say you went out on maybe 7 or 8 a week, but you ended up with 5 tire kickers that week. That puts you at about 10 hours that week wasted, right? Again, conservative on the time, about 10 hours a week wasted. In our industry, we're always talking about never having enough time. We're always overwhelmed. This is one of the biggest time leaks in any outdoor living contracting company, is the time they spend with people who can't or won't or never will say yes to you, and going out with just a hope and a dream of something happening and not coming back with anything, right? Not coming back. Now you extrapolate that over 50 weeks in a year. Now I know we have seasonal up and downs. I get all of that, but that equates to about 500 hours of time that has been given away, and you'll never see a dollar back for it. And not that every single conversation's about money, but at the end of the day, we're running a business, not a charity. If you want to do a charity, that's a whole different conversation, but this is a business for profit. So with that being the case, 500 hours. And I challenge any listeners out there that think those numbers are nuts to start tracking how much time you waste with tire kickers. If you do, you will start crying, because I did. When I started tracking this, I was like, oh my goodness. I'm robbing my family in order to go out and make sure other people have some hope in them. And I'm hopeful I get a project. If I could just get out in front of them, I'll be fine. That's when I sell best, when I'm putting on my performance. And it wasn't working. 25-30% is the average, right? So with that, if you took 500 hours, which sounds like a lot, and it put that into days, 63 days a year wasted, 8-hour days. 63. Listeners, if you could figure you're going to waste 63 days a year going out to talk to people who aren't going to say yes to you, and you could just wave a magic wand right now and say, you know what? I want to take those 63 days and do something different with them, because I know I'm going to piss them away anyway. Like, let's go hunting. Let's go fishing. Let's go play with the kids. Let's go on vacation. Let's just sit home and watch football for 63 days. I mean, you could do so much. Think about this. It's a guarantee you're going to waste that time this year. But what if you knew ahead of time how to make sure that didn't happen? What if you knew ahead of time the leads that were going to be viable and actually go out and say yes to you, the real yes, and give you a check and do a project with them? What if you knew with certainty, at least 80% of the time or more, that those are going to be the right ones? How would that change your life? Most don't realize their time that's invested in these tire kickers. I didn't realize it until I started tracking it. And if you put that together with a 5-day-a-week work schedule, which I know is probably a little low for most people listening, but a 5-day work week, and you have 8 hours in that day, that extrapolates out into 3 months. Yep, a whole quarter wasted of potential. And you wonder why our industry suffers so much, because of that time waste. This isn't even factoring in job site inefficiencies and guys going to Home Depot to pick up 1 or 2 parts, or going to the gas station and getting Twinkies. Like, that doesn't even factor that in there. This is now mostly the owner or in the office that are going out doing all the sales work. That's their time being squandered and wasted. So I say all of that because that's my bigger mission, is to get our industry up to the 75% plus closing rate. And it's so simple to do once we start realizing these things. But if the industry as a whole would start taking communication training as valuable as build training, travel for it, listen for it, go to events, if they would do that as much, they would be selling 2, 3, 4, 10x what they're doing now in less time. Think about that. Less time, no more marketing dollars spent. That's the part, right? I thought at a certain point in my life that I had to throw more money in the marketing machine to get my 25 to 30% closing rate. I just had to keep throwing money in there like throwing it in fire. And then one day I thought, wait a minute here, what if instead of me throwing more money in marketing and only closing 1 out of 3, what if, let's do some quick math here. What if I just went from 25 or 30 to say 40 or 50%? Let's just be crazy. Double the closing rate. What would that look like? Well, same money in marketing, double the revenue. Holy moly. That's insane. I got my time back. I could spend it with my kids, my wife. I can go do the things that I want to do. So I made more money and I got to do more of what I wanted to do. This is the part that is a blind spot in our industry, and it's my mission to make sure that it's not only seen but solved industry-wide. So, all right, John, I'd love to hear what you got to think about that. I've been talking a lot here. I get on a tangent here, so it's
No, you sure have. And you're dead on. I mean, everybody goes to those seminars and things and learns about proper installation, learn about new tools and equipment to get more efficient. But there's very little out there and very few people learning about how to sell their work. And without selling the work, you don't get to go do it. It doesn't matter how efficient you are or how good you are at building it. If you can't sell it, you got to be able to sell it first.
That's right. That's the first step. And the craziest thing that I've learned throughout this, and you tell me if it's true for you as well, is, once you learn how to communicate, it doesn't just stop at the walls of the office. I mean, all of a sudden my marriage was better. My relationship with my kids was better. My relationship with my friends and family were better because I knew to not talk so much. I knew to be quiet and ask good questions. It becomes a habit. And you start to meet some really cool people and you learn some things you never would have known before. Because I know when I would approach a friend and I would talk, it would be like, all right, I'm going to tell him everything about what I've been up to. And then I'm going to do this thing, which we all do deep down if we're not watching, is this one up, right? It's the one up where someone says to you, hey, you know what? I just got back from Florida this week and went down and visited the family. We went to the beach and it was really nice. And, we really enjoyed ourselves. And in the back of my head, I'm not listening to them. What am I doing? I'm thinking about the story that I'm going to tell next. That's going to knock their story out of the water. Because I'm trying to build rapport. But really what I'm trying to do is say, look how much better I am than you. And we do this in the context of people's homes too. I caught myself doing this and I was like, oh my goodness, never again. And I wasn't doing it for any other reason, but I was trying to build rapport. And that same person with the Florida trip, I'm like, yeah, I just got back from Bora Bora. It was amazing, right? Or whatever, like just fill in the blank. It was amazing, man. I was like halfway around the world. The sand is so white and the ocean is so blue and the fish are so colorful. And they're like trying to one up because you're trying to build rapport. But what do you think the other person feels like when you're doing that?
Yeah, not good. That's the opposite. I mean, they're trying to tell you about their trip and then you just kind of like put the kibosh on it by telling them about yours. That's better, How about asking them some more questions about how their trip was and what they liked about it and all that. And they'll all of a sudden, wow, I really like this guy, because you're actually interested in hearing about their story.
Yeah. There's a fine line between sharing too much and being disengaged that way and listening too much and not asking good questions. Like there's a whole balance in there. But I will say, listeners, that if you go out thinking I need to have the best stories to tell the clients and you are guilty of, like I was, one-upping clients, you will push people away before they even start. You could have everything else right. You could have the right questions asked. You could have the right pricing. You could have the right everything else. But if that client feels like you're coming in with an ego or too much pride or trying to overpower them with a better story or a better something, they may be like, I like what he's got, but I don't like him. I don't like her. I just don't want to do business with that person. So it's not about changing who you are. It's about becoming more aware of who you are. And that's by recording your communications really helps you go back and listen. And that's the one thing that we have all of our students do is record their conversations. Because when they do, they finally hear it in themselves. And then they see, oh, yeah, I see what you're saying there. I can't believe I'm doing that. I didn't think I did that. And next thing you know, you're like, all right, it's time. It's time. And I hear that now, when I hear ums all the time, I'm going to replace it with a pause. Start there. First step. When you feel that coming on, pause and then continue. So anyway, anything else you want to share, John, as we move along here?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the other end of it, hiring contractors for home improvement contracts, work at home. And I can remember my wife saying that guy talked too much. I don't want to hire him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or they just come out and they're really loud and aggressive, and you feel like you've got 21 minutes of their time and they're going to tell you how it's going to be. And most clients, especially ones with bigger, deeper pockets, they don't want that. They want a relationship. They want to build trust with somebody before they go any further. So I appreciate you coming on, John, here. Listeners, hope you got something from this week. We'll continue on this journey here. These are all different points that we make in the book, the Core 10 Sales Playbook. It's out on Amazon now. Go out and get your copy. We go through this in depth in that book to make sure you can understand how to better qualify, how to talk less and make more, and so many other things that are going to help you out there selling more landscapes, hardscapes, and outdoor living projects so you can be home more with your family, make more money, have more freedom, and just enjoy life more. That's really what it's all about. So go grab your copy. All right, John. Good chatting with you. Talk to you guys next week.
You too. Thank you.